Welcome to the Radical Abundance Podcast, where we celebrate God's radical abundance in all things. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Welcome to Radical Abundance. I'm your host, Teresa Janzen, and today my guest is David Lutes. He is a global leadership organization development coach and trainer and a part-time pastor. Today, we're talking all about God's radical abundance of vision. So welcome to Radical Abundance, David.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. It really is.
Well, I have a question for you to get us going. If you were to wake up tomorrow morning and anything were possible, there were no limits, what would you do with your day?
You mean apart from play for the New York Yankees? No. Someone asked me this question many years ago when I was first beginning to do the work I do. And he said to me, and I agree with him, and it's become my sort of motto ever since, if I can't spend my time finding ways to help people learn, grow, improve, and discover purpose for their life, through writing, through training, through podcasts, through counseling and coaching, then I'm miserable. So that's what I would love to do all day, every day, any day. So
I can really relate to that. You know, I spend a lot of time doing what I love. Some people call it work, but I call it life,
Yeah,
and I think, when you have found your purpose and what gets you out of bed in the morning, that's what you want to do. So I'm right there with you on that one.
Just to comment on that, when I come back from Saudi Arabia or Azerbaijan or someplace, having done what I would regard as successful, I've achieved my mission in building people up and helping people learn, grow, and improve. Even though I'm tired, I come home and my family will say to me, indirectly or directly, in some way or other, please go away more often. And I go, thanks a lot, And they said, no, the point is that you're tired, but you've come home happy. We like this guy. We like him. We like the spirit, the tone, the energy that you bring back, even though you're exhausted. And obviously, because you did something you really loved and felt called to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love the feeling at the end of the day, falling into bed, totally exhausted, but ready to get up the next morning and do it again. Yeah. Not every day's like that.
No, I just wish I could turn my brain off, because I go to bed thinking about some new idea, and then I'm unpacking it, developing it, finding scripture to support it, or finding some material. And the first thing I do in the morning, I'm up, back on the laptop, and I need to, anyway, the problem. I have to switch off somehow, some way. So.
Yeah, exactly. I can totally relate to that. Well, tell me exactly, what is a global leadership organizational development coach? That's a lot of words in one title.
Yeah. I started professional life after I left ministry. I started professional life trying to find a management philosophy. Actually, for the former Soviet Union, I was involved with doing leadership development and training for global aid agencies in the former Soviet Union, and trying to help managers and leaders from that culture and history transition into a Western way of thinking. But because of my values, I wanted something that I could really get my heart in and develop skills around. And so I was exposed to a management philosophy that was very popular, was very in vogue, still is. And I would go into organizations as a short-term trainer delivering a 3-day course. And then enthusiasm would rise, people would be motivated, there'd be this light would come on, and the organization would realize, hold on, we're not ready to absorb the energy and the new thinking and the new vision of this group of people. So then they would invite me in to be a change management person. I would come in and look at organizational structure, look at systems, look at process, look at the way they are aligned, and are they able to grow as an organization? Do they understand their culture as an organization? So then I would put on the consultant hat, And then after I've worked with that, then I would transition again back into training. And over time, I kind of would put one hat on after another. These days, I will get a call or get approached by, let's say, well, just in the last few weeks, the largest company in the world, Saudi Aramco, based in Saudi Arabia, multi-billion-dollar organization, thousands of people, and they were wanting to become more customer focused. And so I would go in, I've gone in and worked with a senior team to look at how they are structured to be able to incorporate new customer service thinking in specifically the human resource department. And I've written books on that, and I've written, spoken on the subject. And so I would be in the training room delivering content, but then responding to questions, then coaching in between, and then setting up a strategy for how they're going to implement. And that's the kind of things I do to get alignment between people, process, resources, skill, and try to build a culture that's empowered. And so empowerment is the big thing, because it's not only the right and good thing to do, and because my heart's in it and I don't do anything else, and I refuse to do anything else, but it's also smart business. And the good companies of the world are recognizing that. And so, last thing on that, I end up teaching, training, coaching, and advising on how to become the managers and leaders, how to become servant leaders. And what's interesting is that the content that I use for an organization, a global company, on servant leadership is no different than what I do with church leaders, only there's no Bible references. It's exactly the same. It has the same value, the same impact. And it's interesting how the hearts and minds of people from the 30 plus countries that I've worked in respond to the message, because it's touching them at a very personal level, and it's very real, and I think it's a God-given hunger that they have. So
absolutely. God's truth is truth, regardless of whether or not you cite chapter and verse,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to work regardless of whether you're implementing it in a church, in a ministry, in an individual's life, or in a corporate situation like you do. So, while we're talking about this issue of vision specifically, I know you do a lot of things. Vision is part of that, helping people maybe first identify their vision and then develop the processes, procedures, things like that to work towards that vision. What do you think is the most difficult thing for organizations, but for people also, in even developing that vision in the first place? Is that hard for some people?
Extremely hard, and it's a cultural thing in that, for example, I make a differentiation between command and control cultures, dictatorial, militaristic, hierarchical, even secretive in the middle, tell people what to do, very little coaching, empowering, support, mentoring. You do what you're told to do. It's very much a parent to a child methodology. Then there's the empowered culture, where it's much more transparent, much more open, collaborative, consultative, lots of training, very communication. There's no silos. There's a breaking down of barriers between departments, etc. And what I do with organizations often is to try to get them to identify where they are, both as an organization, large scale, macro, departmental, and then personally. And because whether we like it or not, every individual is looking for soil to grow in. They don't describe it like that, but if you're going to spend a third of your life working, a third sleeping, nice idea, but anyway, theoretically, and a third doing something else, it's probably a good idea that the soil you're growing in when you work, the third of your time, is good soil. So you sleep better, and you actually make a better contribution to the other third. So what I try to do is get people to say, what are your values? What do you believe about people? How do you define success? How do you define collaboration? What is a win for you? And get them to relate their own heart goals and their own heart search and what they're longing for Many of them don't know how to discover that, and that's my coaching role. But what is it that you believe and care about, and how does it fit with the organization? And so I try to get the organizational leaders, and I'm often working at a very high level, to identify both where they are at culturally in terms of command, control, empowerment, or somewhere in between, and where they think they need to be. Now, of course, financial people in the money markets and others are driving what they define as success. So for them to suddenly, and they say on their websites, we believe our people are our most valuable asset. We believe in investing in our people, blah, 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 blah. When you ask the people, they say, well, no, that's not real. That's nice words. So my job is to try to help them be honest with themselves about where they are at culturally, where they think they need to be, and how they're going to get there by investing in their people properly. Then I work with the people who do the implementation to get them to get a different vision about how they lead, how they manage, how they set goals, how they delegate, discover the people side, the soft side, the caring side, the empathetic side, the motivational stuff that comes from heart, not just money, and get them to implement that on a practical basis. It's very, very, I'd like to believe, ask my clients, I'd like to believe that it's very non-theoretical and very practical. So therefore, if you believe you need to be a better empowerer of others that report to you in your department, and that means better coaching, better caring, better empathy, what do you need to do to make a change tomorrow? One step. Don't boil the ocean, one teacup. Let's start with that. And that's the way I try to get people to take the big plan, the big vision, melt it down into something small and tangible, and recognize that boiling a teacup can transform lives. And people begin to recognize that one kind word, one empathetic, understanding comment, one caring gesture, one demonstration of commitment to an employee that you believe in them can transform a life. Now, we're not talking Christian stuff here. I'm just talking about being human. And what do you believe about, what do you know about them? Have you taken the time to get to know their heart, how they like to learn, how they prefer to be communicated with, how do they like to solve problems? And I get them to answer those kinds of questions so that they can become better leaders and managers. The problem I have, and I'll stop in a moment, the problem I have is when I work with lower level supervisors and lower middle managers, they come away so charged up and so excited about the possibility that their career path is going to be accelerated through a caring culture and a supportive boss, that I breed frustration often because their managers should have been in the course. If they're the ones that need to hear it, not just them. And so, and there's a course we do based on a book called People Don't Leave Organizations, They Leave Managers. And anyway, so that's my job, is to help people envision a future that they can be part of and commit to, and a culture that they can support and grow in. And so I'm a kind of a cultural change vision maker type with practical stuff, I hope. So.
Well, listening to you talk about this in the context of big corporations sounds like mostly these huge entities. But I think those exact same principles that I hear you describing would be just as applicable in the family or the church or the community or any context of people.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all of what I do, I'd like to think most of what I do is driven by the principle, a belief that God wants to fill the earth with his glory. And he wants to restore the image that he originally created. Now I'm talking about right relationship with him, with people, with our environment, being whole, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, socially, even financially. I just believe that he wants his people to appropriate the gifts and calling that he has placed on our lives, and to get, I've got a new book coming out someday. It's called, The Church Has Left the Building. I just want us to get out there and deliver this message of wholeness. and putting one another back together again, restoring the image of God in the people we relate to, that we work with, that we, our families, communities. And that drives my whole, all of the training and teaching that I do, whether I'm working with a family and helping church leaders recognize that they have a responsibility not to just be the jack of all trades, the omnicompetent spokesman at the front of the building in a pulpit, but actually the equipper. I'm going to not contradict, I'm going to sidestep. When I was a pastor, and I still believe this, my fundamental commitment was to be a gift detector and developer. I believe God has equipped every child of God with something to offer and to give, to be part of the big purpose to restore the image of God and fill the earth with his glory. As the covenant people, we have this gifting that he's given us. Well, my job as a pastor was to work myself out of a job, to find people that had a heart for service and to help them unpack, discover, and unlock the gifting that he's given them, and to just help them to detect it and to develop it, so that we as the family of God, the people of God, can go into the world and bring healing and wholeness. The problem is that the church institutionally, we've become so centered on the guy at the front, the person at the front, that you can come in and be anonymous and drift in and drift out and never really discover your gifting. And so when I'm working with church leaders, it's not about how to become a better leader, but how to become a better servant who detects gifts and develops them. And so the message for me is the same. And when it comes to career journey, career pathing, which is a lot of what I do, I have stuff I do with the church and also with non-church context. The churches, we've really neglected that part of our responsibility to help the people of our congregations, of the body, to discover not just their spiritual gifts, but their natural gifts and their calling as people that go to real jobs day after day after day. And can you imagine a congregation, a fellowship, where the people, the managers and leaders who go out day after day and do a job, and I'm talking about housewives, I'm talking about stay-at-home dads, I'm talking about anybody who serves outside of the building, for them to feel fulfilled and directed, have a sense of purpose, and that they're using their gifts and skills and abilities better than ever before. When they come back into the body, I mean, can you imagine worship like that? And then when we support people with the care, the support, the coaching, the counseling, to help people work through those issues, to discover their purpose and to find wholeness in their lives outside of church life, I just think that that's, if I could do anything starting tomorrow when I wake up, that's what I would do. Anyway, sorry, I've gone on. I've talked a long. I'm sure you got a question buzzing there I should respond to. So.
No, that's great. I'm just imagining these same questions on the corporate level, on the church level, being asked on the family level. A mom and a dad asking their son, about how do you like to solve problems? And discovering
Sure.
what it is their natural giftedness, and not just the common things we do with our kids, but really developing them as people. And same thing with our spouses. Can you imagine a dinner conversation like that? I think it's just amazing. But I'm kind of wondering, this is big stuff. So where does someone start? If they're listening to this right now and they say, well, that sounds amazing for a corporation in Saudi Arabia, and maybe for a church, a mega church, but I'm just, like you said, a housewife. Where do I find that vision?
It's a really good question, and I've been challenged about that for a long time. I keep jetting off to some place in the other part of the world and do my thing, and then I come back and I see broken relationships in small fellowships in my community, and even my own family will stop me, sometimes after I've returned from a trip, for example, and my wife will say, "Professor, stop talking. we're not your students. We need you to be dad, to be the husband, to be more than just the lecturer who teaches people all over the world. And so I began to really seriously pray about this. My son and I, we wandered around looking for churches in our community where it wasn't about the program, the performance, about the big numbers. It was more about heart and relationships and friendships and being in community. And we weren't able to find it. And it was really sad because my son was at a critical point where he was really wanting to connect those dots in terms of his own career, his own purpose in life, and so on. But then God was wonderful. He's given me the opportunity to work with a church plant. It's a church from another part of the state is now trying to begin something here in our community. And I'm in at the grassroots level. We've gone from 5 to 9 to 12 to 15, and we're still staying in homes. And I said to the guy who's leading this, I'm not interested in being part of this if you've got to focus on building a building. If your goal is to build a building, then I'm not in. We got to build a people that are part of the fabric of this society, this community. And we've got to discover our connectedness. We've got to discover what it means to put one another back together again. I don't want anyone to feel they're coming into the meeting or the fellowship group thinking they've got to perform, that they've got to be good Christian. I want them to come in warts and all, to be transparent and vulnerable and come in. And, I remember used to say in the church I co-pastored in Dubai about 8-10 years ago, I said that if you've come in here believing you've got your act together, you're going to be uncomfortable. Because we're here to restore the image of God in one another, and that means being transparent, vulnerable, broken, and calling a spade a something shovel. And I had groups of we only had about 100 people, 125 people, but we had senior executives from big airlines, from big corporations who were expatriates from many different countries and languages, cultures. And that was our fundamental principle. You can be yourself here. You can be authentic. You don't need to fake it. You don't need to perform. You're not impressing anybody. We are broken, vulnerable people who need to be put back together again, and that's why we're here. And so since I got bitten by that bug of the small fellowship that wasn't about the big thing, I've been looking for that. And that's, if I could be part of helping grow those kinds of cell group type family-centered home groups that sort of network together and permeate the life of a community, then I'm really died and gone to heaven. But you're right, it's tough. It's because people have expectations. We're having to undo expectations about what a church is and what we do as a church, instead of being a people and a group of families. So anyway.
Right. And I think, when you take it down to the small level, the family, the small church, things like that, so much of the time seems to be spent on just trying to get by, that there doesn't seem to be the capacity for vision. And so I'm wondering then too, as we're grasping for developing an individual, a family, a church, a ministry, whatever vision, where does that align with God's radical abundance of vision? Because that's what we really want to talk about and what we want to align with ultimately anyway. We know that God has a huge vision, a redemptive vision for mankind. So how do we get in alignment with that?
There's almost, in a sense, there's a build up to that is like foundation stones that I'm beginning to discover after 50 plus years of doing this. Finally, I'm beginning to get it, that lead us to the place where we get it, we see it. And one of the things that again, probably another book, it'll come out in 30 years from now. I've called the book is Under New Management. Hang a sign around your neck that says Under New Management. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I've surrendered my will, I've surrendered my life, I've turned it over to him, and he has promised through his word and through the vision that he created, that he brought into the world hundreds of years ago, I will get inside you. I'll redeem you. I'll transform you. And I'll alter your thinking, your mind, your view, your own vision of the world, your own vision of yourself by the work of my Spirit. And I will change you from the inside out, and I will mold you into my image and give you a heart and a desire for my word and to take my love to the world. Well, for me, that's people, if we are so performance focused that we forget about the fact that whether I fail or whether I succeed, whether I'm a good Christian or I had a bad week, the only basis that I can approach the throne of God is the blood of Christ. And yet we think that I have to keep some spiritual law. I have to do certain things. I've read the Bible, I've witnessed, I've prayed, I've done this, and I didn't do this and that. And when really he says, I love you how you are. Catch a vision for that. I love you. Nothing you do catches me by surprise. You can walk around the corner and and God's not going to say, oh my goodness, what? I didn't see that one coming, Dave. He's ahead, one step ahead. He is on our side. He walks with us. He's inside us. He's going to cause us to walk in his way. But that's a vision that we have to catch. The church we've become so obsessed with performance through attendance, through meetings, through doing stuff. And, the devil is the father of lies, but he's also the author of church clutter, in my mind. We've come to the place where we believe that doing things is doing God's work. And the vision that we have is performance driven. If we can have a bigger building, bigger attendance, bigger this, larger that, when really the simple vision, the radical vision, is that he is inside me and he has given me gifting and he wants to use me. And I've hung a sign around my neck that says I'm not only under new management, but that I'm available today. I'm available today. And I have a lovely story, if you allow me to share it, about what that can do. But I'll leave you to decide. I don't know what the time is. So.
I think we have a few moments. Please do share it.
Well, okay. So foolishly, I'm working outside of out of Missouri. I'm working in Washington, and I'm coming home every third or fourth weekend. And in the middle, I'm sometimes jetting off to again some other part of the world. But I'm involved in a church, and I'm sharing what we've talked about today. And I'm really kind of in coaching and counseling and really trying to help people to discover this vision. And foolishly, as I say, I said to the Lord that morning, okay, Lord, I'm available today. And anyway, long day. I'm in a flight from Washington to St. Louis, and I've decided to cuddle up next to the window and just have a good 2-hour nap because I'm really exhausted. As we reach cruising altitude, the lady sitting in front of me put her seat back a little bit too abruptly. She looked back between the seats and she said to me, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, hey, God bless you, dear, don't worry. That's it. She could have sneezed. And I said, God bless you. It was that simple. Anyway, so I start to sort of go back onto my little sleep, and the guy next to me taps me on the shoulder and says, can I ask you a question? I said, okay. And he said, you said God bless you. I go, I did? He said, yeah, you did. He said, you meant it. And I go, okay. Yes. He said, are you a born-again Christian? And I said, you tell me what that means, and I'll tell you if I am. So he began to describe a good, safe version of this. And we started talking about his search. He's looking for authenticity. He's looking for somebody, for God he wanted to connect with Christians who were real and genuine, and he was feeling lost and directionless. And so I'm trying to counsel and coach this guy, and we hadn't got to a prayer yet. But after about an hour, the guy next to him taps us kind of both on the shoulder figuratively and said, I've just finished Bible school and I'm looking for where I should be serving. Can you guide me, Dave? And so my 2-hour nap is gone simply because I said I'm available. And that was it. I mean, who am I really? I'm just a guy who, if God's vision is for a people to be available, to get off our butts, sorry, forgive my language, our knee butts, if you like, and be available. And his vision can be fulfilled if we do that. And sorry, one last thing. I was on a 4-hour layover in Chicago O'Hare. I plugged in my computer, asked the lady across the way from me if I could plug into the power outlet. And that was it. Didn't say a word other than, can I do it? 15 minutes later, she interrupted me. She said, can I ask you a question? And I said, okay. She said, what do you believe happens to people when they die? We've not even introduced ourselves. And this woman was hungry and searching. And I think what it was is God had a vision for her. He was touching her. He was calling her. He was saying, this is what I want for your life. And I need to bring somebody in to help you make that next step. And I happen to be available. So I'm nobody. I'm just available. So that's, for me, that's the vision. The abundance of vision is for us to capture that. Don't boil the ocean, boil a teacup. It's a small teacup of vision. Be available. And God can do his thing through us.
David, I love that. And actually, you know what? I think that story just really sums up everything that we've talked about. And I'm going to let people just reflect on that. Quickly, though, do share with us how to connect with you, any resources that we should know about. I'll also put those in the show notes.
I'm on LinkedIn, David Lutes. I'm there. I've got a book out. It's called Your Dose of Motivation, Discover the Authentic You and Your Purpose and Calling. I'm one of some authors. That's on Amazon. But otherwise, LinkedIn's probably the best way. I mean, I try not to make my faith secret. That said, a lot of my Muslim friends know, by the way, that I'm Christian. And we have that challenging conversation about what do you believe about people and God in my training courses, which has always proved kind of interesting.
Well, what I'm taking away today is that if I'm searching for my purpose, my vision, all of those things, and I think it has to be some big lofty statement like people put on their website and stuff. Instead, I just want to be available because God has already designed the vision. And if I make myself available in the small things, to those small moments, then those opportunities will show up.
Thank you, and I'd love to just end with a quotation if I could. It's in my book, but I'm not trying to sell the book. It's called, "We are so much more than just the sum of our ups and downs, our wins and losses, our successes and failures, and regrets and hopes. We are unique in our calling, purpose, and destiny. No matter how small or big, it's ours uniquely, and God has placed his hand on our life to achieve it."
Thank you for that encouragement, and I wish you a radically abundant day.